Hey everybody, welcome back to part two of episode number 5. This is Jordan Bradford here with Jeff Beck, and you're listening to Just Ballin' with JB. And it's brought to you today by D. Oliver Design. For all your commercial graphic design needs, visit doliverdesign.com.
We're back.
So we're back in part two here, Jeff. And as always, let's do a quick recap of our fantasy football week. It looks like you took a bit of a stumble for the first time. 4-1 now?
Yeah, 4-1, first loss of the season. Felt like there was a little collusion pre-game between a couple participants making some trades, really trying to take me out this week, but we won't do any investigation into that. But yeah, weren't expecting to go undefeated. Eagles were on a bye, so my top receiver AJ out, top running back Saquon out. Anthony Richardson, who is currently my top quarterback and who I've been playing, although that is up in the air, was out. So I had to play Deshaun Watson, which was obviously a terrible mistake on my part.
You should have just played Jameis.
Yeah, shoot. I had a weird feeling he was going to have like a bounce back game, and it would be a good game against Commanders' defense. I didn't think was that good, but didn't happen. Kier was out for the Bills, who is, I think, their top option. I'm not saying he's crushing it, but top option for them. So he gives you some points. And then Nico got knocked out in the second quarter. Is my top. He's actually looking to be like a top 5 receiver. I mean, there is obviously a lot of talent up there, and it's hard
He's
to
a big
pick and
dude
choose.
too. Have you seen him? He's like 6'4.5". Like he's
he's
tall,
good,
strong man.
He's really good. When you got CJ throwing you the ball, that is obviously a big thing. So, and with all that being said, I lost by 2 points, which I'm sure my brother-in-law Greg would have things to say about how he didn't score more in the last game with Pat Mahomes and Olave, but whatever. Lost by 2, 4-1, and still feeling fine. Eagles are going to be back next week. Feeling good about a good bounce back.
Yeah. I feel similarly about next week because, as you said, the Eagles are coming back, and I've got Jalen Hurts, so I get to put him back in, and he's a fantasy scorer. So
Yeah,
just puts
he's
up
a
so
great
many
player
points
as
with
well.
those tush pushes. And I think he's a good player. We'll see if he's great or not, but he's great for fantasy. My team got another win, so now we're up to 3-2. After week 1, I may have overreacted a bit and thinking my team was going to be pretty bad, and we are still on the lower end of points scored, but we had a really good, solid week where we scored about 138 points, I believe it was. So really solid week. Very happy. I made a big trade, so we'll see how that shakes out. But I had 2 great tight ends. I had Travis Kelce and Brock Bowers. Obviously, different ends of their career, different starts to the season, even for the 2 of them. But at least so far, looks like trading Brock Bowers and keeping Kelce worked out for me this week. He had an awesome performance on Monday night and helped me secure that victory because it wasn't an easy one. Even though I think I won by about 20 points, it took a Herculean effort.
It's the best game he's had all year, right? I mean, he had scored touchdowns still. He still touchdown less, but there was a lot of catches in there and some good yardage.
Yeah. Week 4, he had a good bounce back game, from his first 3 weeks. But, hopefully he's got enough in the tank. And I think he's going to have to step up for the Chiefs because they've had so many injuries and, you just need him to play better. And so I'm betting on he's going to play better because he needs to play better. And that's a team that I think they do what they need to do to win. So I like that. And got a little wide receiver help. Got a little high upside running back. So there's a chance that maybe we both end up being playoff teams if things go well. So overall, good week for me. Could have been better for you, but I don't think you can be too upset about losing by 2 points, especially because you still scored. So it's not like you had 80 points and you lost by 2, and it's like, yeah, I could have won. My team was just slightly less trash.
I was looking through the final scores, and at first, the first 7 or 8 were all a little bit higher than me. Even at 110, I finished at, and I'm like, I'm not shotgunning this week, am I? And then I found a few at the bottom that were in the 90s. I'm like, okay, good. I thought I did all right, but Yeah, I
Haven't
think
had to worry
we'll
about that, which is nice.
playoff bound, baby. Let's make it happen.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, before we jump into our next topic, I've got a little one biter for you here.
Mm.
Shohei Otani does exactly what you would expect from the best player in baseball. Hits a towering 3-run homer in his first career postseason at bat.
Yes.
I think baseball fans should consider a class action lawsuit against MLB and the Los Angeles Angels for keeping him hidden from us for the last 6 postseasons. Hard to believe the best player in baseball has never had a postseason at bat until this year, but he showed up when given the opportunity.
That is insane. I forgot he was not even on the Angels, and the fact that it was him and Trout there. Trout's been there for how? I mean, yeah, what is
Trout's
going
been
on
there
over
for
there?
a decade and been the best player for half of that time, at least
Yeah,
in all of baseball. I don't understand how the Angels can be so bad. They have an owner who throws money at like 2 or 3 or maybe 4 guys, and then basically the rest of the organization bare bones. Scouting department, nah, we don't need it.
that's insane.
Terrible, terrible organization. But
That's
I
insane.
digress.
That dude's a good player, though.
Yeah. Back to football, though.
Yeah.
We're going to play a little game. We're going to play a blind reveal game here. So we're going to share a couple of stats, and the other one of us will have to basically make some guesses as to what exactly is going on. What are we picking? We're all going to find out how this works together. So strap in if you're in a moving vehicle.
I was gonna say you said a couple of stats. I'm like, wait, was it a couple of stats? Was it the whole stat line? So yeah, I guess we're all gonna figure out how this game works as we go. But I think the essence of it is you're gonna hear some numbers. It's some player probably will be pretty obvious what position they play based on the numbers that you hear. We're gonna give 3, maybe 4 options, ABC, maybe ABCD as options to choose from, just to give the guy a chance of guessing the player right. And go from there. I mean, I would guess there's a chance that we've looked at some of the same stats and therefore, they might stand out to you, but I tried to not pick the very obvious one. So we'll see how it goes here. So I'm going to go first. The stat line, this one might be a little obvious. The stat line, although could actually be tricky. Stat line is 9 for 30 passing, 131 yards, and 1 touchdown. 0 picks. So obviously it's quarterback. I think you're going to figure that out. So option A is Aaron Rodgers against the Vikings over in London. Tyler Huntley, backup in Miami. Jacoby Brissett, longtime backup, starter now. Or Josh Allen, A, B, C, or D.
That's tough. So I know it's not Aaron Rodgers because I believe he threw multiple picks against the
Yeah, this one was bad, but Aaron Rodgers.
It sounds like any game that Tyler Huntley or Jacoby Brissett has quarterbacked, which leads me to think it's got to be Josh Allen. This has got to be a trap. Josh Allen, I know, didn't have a great game. I don't know what his exact stat line was, but I feel like it's a trap. It's Josh Allen cosplaying Tyler Huntley and Jacoby Brissett.
I mean, it was funny because I'm sure everyone's kind of heard this stat line from Josh Allen at least a little, or knew he played terrible. But I was like, this could easily be a Tyler Huntley. This could easily be a Jacoby Brissett line. So I was like, it could play out well. But yes, you are correct. Josh Allen completed less than 30% of his passes. It was the worst completion percentage, I believe, by any quarterback who threw at least 30 passes. Mentioned the roller coaster on him a little bit earlier. Is it concerning considering they're leaning so heavily on him to determine their success? I mean, is that concerning or just a bad game and he'll be back? What do you think?
I mean, there's a big part of me wants to say it's just a bad game. He's going to be back. But I'm starting to feel like this is just what you're going to get from Josh Allen going forward. The rest of his career, as long as he's in this peak form of what he is as a quarterback, I don't know if he's got it in him to not have these games pop up at inopportune times as often as they do. I mean, this was a big game for the Bills, right? They coming off a bad loss against the Ravens. They needed to play well. It's fine to lose that game because you're going on the road. the Houston Texans are a solid team, but to play poorly and lose, especially in a close game, you got to feel like we let one get away there that is probably going to be important down the line when the biggest challenge to any team in the AFC is how do we get past Kansas City? And if we've got to go to Kansas City every week in the playoffs to beat them, it's going to be tough. They proved last year they can do it on the road too, but it's going to be even tougher if you've got to go play in Kansas City. So I'm a little nervous, to be honest, about that performance because I was thinking that maybe Josh Allen was maturing a bit now that he has, a different offense he's running, that we might see less of these games. And I'm not convinced that that's going to be the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only silver lining maybe for them is he played terribly. The coaching was absolutely atrocious at the end of the game there, and you barely lost to what we all think to be a pretty good team. Clearly, they are a 4-1 team, and who we think is a pretty good team overall. So if it is the outlier games, you might be able to take some positive away from that. But yeah, is it just who he is naturally? Hard to say, but I also, as a part of that, because I thought it was such a stat line that could have been any of those quarterbacks, knowing that Rodgers played bad and Tyler Huntley and Jacoby Brissett. Listen to this stat line. So 74 for 149, 74 of 149. So 49% completion, 74 completions to 149 attempts, and 29 yards, 3 touchdowns, with 4 interceptions. That's the total of all 4 of those quarterbacks in that division for the entire week, which, could be like just a bad individual game by one singular quarter. Obviously, the total amount of yards, 729, is a lot, but like Kirk Cousins just had 500 plus, which hopefully he's not in your game, but he just had 500 on his own in one game. These 4 quarterbacks were at 729. Completed less than 50%, and 3 touchdowns with 4 interceptions. That is about as bad a quarterback play as you will get in a singular division. I don't know, possibly all the time. We'll have to fact check that. But anyway, had to share that last little tidbit with you.
Yeah, that's a wild stat for how poorly that quarterback play is right now in the division. If Josh Allen's not playing great, if he's not playing great, that division is a bad quarterback division. If he's playing great, then you've got I think an average quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, and then trash right now.
Yeah.
So he's got to play greater. That division looks awful. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got one for you here. I got a stat for you. So the stat here for you is the division that is leading the NFL in fewest points allowed per game. So you take all the teams in the division, on average, what division is playing the best defense? And I'll give you 3 options, so you have 3 to pick from. But we've got the NFC North, the AFC East, and the AFC West.
So we got the NFC North.
Yep, NFC North, AFC East, and AFC West. Of those divisions, which one is number 1 in the NFL right now in fewest points allowed per game?
I would say initially, just the NFC North, talking about, they've been good. The Vikings defense been good. Bears defense is solid. Packers and Lions might be middle of the pack. But and then you say Jets and Patriots, and some of those are just low scoring games across the board. So you think, okay, defense might look better just because they're low scoring. But the Chiefs, I think, might have one of the best defense at the end of the day. Maybe the numbers don't say it, but I think they might. And all of a sudden, the Broncos defense is looking like an incredible defense. The Chargers, I've known to have a really good defense. So I'm going to go with the AFC West would be my guess.
That's exactly right. The AFC West is currently leading all of the NFL, averaging only 17.84 points per game, which is almost a full point less than the next best division, which is the NFC North, followed by the AFC East at 20.3. So
those are the top 3.
2.5 points better than the AFC East. And what I think is crazy about this stat is the Las Vegas Raiders have allowed the fourth most points of any team in the NFL.
So they're
And yet
dragging
the
it down.
division, they're
Yeah.
dragging that division down on points allowed per game. And they're allowing right now, I think it's like 26.2 points per game, something like that, right? And the entire division is only allowing 17.8. So that's a division that is kind of sneaky good at defense for a offensive head coach, Chiefs, star quarterback,
Yeah.
star offensive coach. You've got Denver Broncos just drafted a quarterback high. They have an offensive head coach, Sean Payton. I mean, those Saints teams weren't exactly known for great defense. They were known for high-flying offense. And Jim Harbaugh, who, I think he knows how to coach defense and get the guys motivated. But former NFL quarterback, he's an offensive coach. The only defensive coach in the division is at the Raiders, which appears to be going down in flames pretty quickly. No surprises here, at least. But I think it's just it's one of those things, right? We talk about having a great quarterback. I said it earlier on part 1 of this episode, but you do have to have a great quarterback to be consistently winning, but defense still wins championships. And you've got the AFC West, which looks good, and they've got the 2-time defending Super Bowl champ in there. The NFC North, which is the best division overall. And you have the AFC East, which, I think that's probably more of the we don't score any points, so the teams that we play don't have to score any points kind of deal.
Yeah.
Just playing a lot of low-scoring, bad football games. What did the Jets just lose, like 10-9 or something the other day or a couple weeks ago?
Broncos, yeah.
Yeah, bad game all around. But I thought that was really kind of an interesting stat that you've got this division and this 2-time Super Bowl champ that, you would think is, offense first, but, they're all putting money in the defense. They're all, putting a lot of time and effort into how do we play good football on the defensive side of the ball so that we can put our team in a good position to win games. The Bears are doing that in the NFC North right now. They're leaning on their defense, and I kind of like it. It's old school football with, good defense. You play tough, and you win close football games.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, it's been pretty interesting to see from that division, just because I don't think that's been typically a highlight of that division, in years past. But yeah, I heard some stats on the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been progressively getting better the last few years. I mean, Chris Jones is got to be one of the top defensive players in the league, if not the top guy. And so they've been getting better. It's not crazy to think, but again, they've kind of transformed from this high-flying offense with Tyreek to now all of a sudden an incredible defense with just a really good quarterback. The weapons, I think, are there if they're healthy, but right now, obviously, they're not. But yeah, Chargers, Harbaugh came in, and all of a sudden, they're a defensive team right off the get-go. And you watch the Broncos, or shouldn't say watch, because I don't think anyone who's outside of Colorado is watching them. But when you hear about the games after, you see the scores, the only reason they're winning is because of that defense. So, yeah, I was not shocked as I started going through it, but I would have thought NFC North probably right off the bat. But then you start thinking through it, and it's like, yeah, it makes sense that they're in that position. But definitely a little surprising and not good for the rest of the league if that's the division the Chiefs are in as well at 5-0, and defense is looking that good.
Well, do you have another stat
next one
me?
for you? All right, we're going to get off the quarterbacks. It's going to be a little different. We're going to go, again, it's pretty obvious, going to go receiver here. So stat line is 7 catches, 87 yards, 1 touchdown. So not anything too crazy one way or the other stat line wise, but your options are CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys, Jalen Tolbert of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry McLaurin of the Commanders, or Wan'Dale Robinson of the Giants. Danny Dimes was back this week.
I picked up Wan'Dale Robinson in my fantasy team and started him at wide receiver, so I should know how well he did. But I know his points scored for me was good. I don't know that was his stat line, though. You said 7 catches, 87 yards, 1 touchdown. I want to go CD, but part of me says that maybe Tolbert was the guy who had the better game. think I'm going to go Tolbert.
Yeah, CD had, I wouldn't say it's the worst game, he's ever had, but definitely not an incredible game. Probably a little more attention on him. And Tolbert, yeah, just came out of nowhere. So I'd say on average, that stat line is not out of this world. But for him, I was like, holy cow, that's a heck of a stat line for him.
Yeah, he's at
So that's
least
why
the
it kind of stood
third
out to me.
receiver option on that team, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, Cooks was out, so I think he was picking up kind of that secondary role for Cooks. But yeah, I mean, that's a heck of a stat line for him in general. Any number 2 receiver, I think that'd be solid. But, they pick up that win against the Steelers, which didn't look good, wasn't super impressive in the sense of how they played, but I think the win was good. Beating the Steelers at 3-1 at their place. Last second drive, 4th down conversion. They needed it. They had to have it, and they did it. I think that was Tolbert who scored that last touchdown. I'm pretty sure that was him. So, yeah, definitely stood out to me as a little bit of a savior for him. Kind of filled in and did what he needed to do.
Yeah, the Cowboys in general, I mean, huge win for them. They had to have that win. And, I don't think Pittsburgh played great, so I'm still not any higher on Dallas than I was a week ago, but maybe a very small marginal amount because they won a game that they pretty much had to win. So that's always, you always like to see that.
You like to see them win a tough kind of grinded out game too. We talk about that all the time. Can they win in these situations? Can they win there? I mean, again, we've known, I don't know if this is coming up later, hopefully not, but I think we talked about, Dallas last 3 years has been at home, they're winning a game. If they're playing any team that is average, it's not a top 5 team, even a top 5 team, and they still are winning home games. And this year they've won all 3 games on the road and none of the games at home. It's just been a shocking reversal. But again, maybe one of those weird things where we're all doubting them. And now it's like, again, they didn't look great, but defense has got a top 2, top 3 defense in Pittsburgh. Weather was obviously not great before the game. It was delayed nearly 2 hours. It didn't look so bad during the game. But, you pull those out. I mean, those are like gritty wins. Again, I also didn't look at them and think, wow, this was a great game. You guys look awesome. I feel a lot better about you. But you win those games. I mean, those are the ones you're saying, hey, you got to find a way to win those games. And they did. I'd like for my, take's sake that the Steelers figure out a way to win some of those, but they didn't. And Dallas did. So who knows? Maybe that'll get them going a little bit.
Yeah, a little building block win there for them. Yeah. So we'll see. Got a tough schedule coming up. But
True.
You got to win. You got to win a week at a time.
Yes, sir. What do you got for me?
Yeah, so we're going to go down south to the NFC South, actually.
How so?
And I'm going to give you some offensive numbers here, and I want you to tell me which team is responsible for the offensive numbers I'm about to give you. So there's 4 teams in the South, right? We got the Falcons, the Bucks, the Saints, and the Panthers. And one offense has 10 touchdowns. Actually, let me back up. I'll go in order. One offense has 9 touchdowns. One offense has 10 touchdowns. One offense has 14 touchdowns. And one has 17 touchdowns so far year to date. And I want you to tell me which team has scored which amount of offensive touchdowns.
Say it again. So it's 17.
9, 10, 14, and 17.
9, 14, 17. Okay. I got to go with this here. I got to jot these notes down. This is a little trickier than I anticipated. I'm going to go. Yeah, I think I got this down cold. All right. I'll start in reverse order as well. 9 has to be the Panthers. If I'm wrong there, then I might as well give up.
You got it.
All right. Panthers are trash, so 9.
1 for 1.
Number 10, I'm going to go with, for 10 touch, I'm going to go Falcons.
2 for 2.
Is that right? Okay. I was going to say, they've eked out some wins, but I know even on one, they scored like 20-something points, and they didn't even have an offensive touchdown. So I was like, I know they've scored some, but that wasn't. And the Bucks have looked really good, but also I think the Saints had a few enormous scoring games. So I'm going with Bucks number 2 at 14 and Saints number 1 at 17.
Spot on.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Nice.
You nailed it, yeah. I thought that was an interesting stat that the Falcons, who technically sit at the top of the division right now because of that head-to-head win against the Bucks,
Yeah, true.
and Falcons and Bucks are 3-2, Saints are 2-3, but the Falcons have a negative point differential. They're -4. The Bucks are +13. The Saints are +44 with those 17 touchdowns.
I was going to say
But
they had some
it's
big
the first 2
wins.
weeks of the year. They
Yeah.
won both games by like 30 points.
Well,
These
Derek Carr
blowout
was
games, and then all of a
MVP.
sudden the
Yeah.
offense come to a halt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
so
makes
kind of
sense.
crazy what's going on in the NFC South, that like the Falcons are basically one touchdown away from being as bad as the Panthers offense. And this is kind of what I thought. Like, I'm not going to put all that on Kirk Cousins. I mean, he just had a really good game, against the Bucks, 500 yards. It's nuts. But still, like, at the end of the day, you got to put some touchdowns on the board.
Yeah.
And that would be something that would have me nervous if I felt like the Falcons were a legit playoff team. I don't know that I trust them to score touchdowns. Obviously, their kicker is pretty good. That Young Ho Koo, that dude is a really good kicker, it seems. So it's helpful to have that when you aren't punching it in. But also for my fantasy football team, I think I have Young Ho Koo. So, or on one of them, which is awesome because they don't punch it in. So
Yeah.
I get a bunch of extra field goals. But yeah. So
I could probably thank you for getting those, just because the Falcons have been watching that division a little closer. And I think we've touched on, I think it's a competitive division. I think it's better than most people thought it was going to be. I think those top 3 teams are going to make it interesting between each other. Do any of them really make a run in the playoffs? Probably not, would be my guess. But I think they're going to kind of have a good battle. If I had to guess, the way it would finish will be Bucks at 1, touchdown, just purely touchdowns. Bucks at 1, Falcons 2, Saints 3, Panthers 4. I would guess the Saints will drop off considerably. Bucks will keep things going. I think Falcons will pick it up. Bucks have been solid, I think. So that'd be my guess moving forward. But yeah, I think the Bucks have been solid. I just knew the Saints had those couple of huge wins. I was like, they had to have had 4 or 5 touchdowns each of those games. So I was like, that probably put him
Alvin
up.
Kamara had a 4-touchdown game himself.
He had 4 alone, yeah. And like I said, we know the Panthers suck. I bet that number would have been 4 if the Red Rocket never got in there. So
And one little caveat: the Falcons do have a defensive touchdown. They're the only team in their division with a defensive touchdown. So if you look up the stats, you'll see that they actually have 11 touchdowns scored. But one of them was a defensive.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That one game, they put up like 20 points, but it was like a defensive touchdown they had. And then I think maybe
a bunch of field goals.
4 field goals, I think it would have been. Yeah, 12 plus. I think that's right. Yeah, something like that. It was close to 20, whatever it was. But I remember that game. That's why I was like, yeah, I don't have them very high. But it is interesting. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Nice pick.
Well, that wraps up our blind reveal, I believe. And I think what's next is we jump into some games that we are watching this week.
Yeah. Well, one biter just popped up here, talking about all these football games and stuff. Deshaun Watson. We talked about the Browns in the most interesting division possibly, and seems to kind of continue on as he settles another lawsuit. And the details of that, if you're interested, are actually confidential, so you will not know the details of that. We'll see if the things are behind him and he can get back to playing, some decent football, maybe just not terrible football. I don't know. It's I just think that whole thing is, and rightfully so, is on the back of his mind day in, day out, all day long. So I just don't see how he's ever going to get back to it. And I don't think you can ever, it'd be like committing a murder and you think you get away with it. How do you ever really feel like you're going to get away with it? Every year there's new technology, new ways of figuring out crime, especially in today's world. But I just feel like there's no way you're not sitting there every day and you hear a knock on the door like, it's today the day, the cops coming. Like, these lawsuits just keep popping up. So I don't know if he'll ever be able to get by with that. But
yeah, totally weird situation, man. I mean, like, where there's smoke, there's fire. Like, there's like he at this point, he can't possibly be trying to make the argument of I didn't do anything wrong. Like, bro, like you have had like 25 women come at you with this. So
And he probably thought
I
he
don't
was
know.
good. I mean,
It's
I haven't
interesting.
heard a single thing of him being at any Diddy parties or anything, so he probably thought he was in the clear, and man, that really took a negative turn for him. So yeah,
Yeah,
not
didn't work
ideal.
out.
Not good being a Browns fan right now.
Yeah, but one thing you won't have to do this weekend is watch the Cleveland Browns because we've got some other games for you to watch
There we go.
instead. And Saturday has got a couple of really marquee college football games. The first one is Saturday at 2:30 on ABC. We've got the Red River rivalry, Boomer Sooner, OU versus Texas, and it's the first edition of the Red River rivalry as members of the SEC. And I, for one, am pretty excited about that game. I think Texas is probably going to win, but I'll be rooting for Oklahoma. I think it'd be fun to see them, as an underdog come in and win that football game. People are riding high on Texas and Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers. And I'd like to see OU's defense just, shut them down a little bit and make it, kind of an old school slugfest game. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, but it should be a good game nonetheless because this is always a competitive game, always highly
Yeah.
competitive. A lot of emotions flying around in that game. So that's the first one I would say to watch on Saturday.
Real question is, are you going to just sleep in that up until we get to Saturday and wear that exact same outfit? Are you going to wash it in between, wear the same, or do you have multiple OU outfits that you can throw on?
This is actually the only one that I own. I felt like I needed to, rep the Boomer Sooner lifestyle down here. We'll see. I wore it last week when they beat Auburn. So, as far as
Yeah.
I know, this jersey or this t-shirt is the only reason OU's having any success at all. So, you're welcome and happy to be of service.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to start receiving a bunch of letters from all your neighbors. Just thank you so much for that shirt. We saw you on the podcast. But all right, we're going to jump into a game to watch in the NFL. It'll actually be before Saturday, Thursday night football. I don't know. I feel like we think these are going to be good games, probably because they're supposed to be good games because they're, solo games being played. They're the first ones of the new week. And then a lot of times they end up being duds. This past one was incredible. Falcons and I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on who the Bucks. Yeah. Great game on Thursday. That was awesome. Hopefully they can repeat that. 49ers and Seattle Hawks. So obviously a division game there. A lot on the line we talked about them, and these two were kind of trending downward, both of them, I think, especially compared to the Cardinals. So I'm curious to see who gets this. Someone's got to win it, I think. I guess you can end the tie, but hopefully someone wins it and maybe can start ascending in the right way, put some pressure on the top of that division. But yeah, I think big games for both these guys. 49ers, just a couple kind of epic collapses, I would say, really, the way they've gone down the last couple weeks. And really Seahawks too. I mean, I think they're both kind of in the same boat. So again, someone's going to have to win. I hope it's not one of those ugly ones where someone wins it simply because someone had to. Hopefully it is two teams going out trying to take it. Maybe a little bit of a high-scoring game. Seahawks seem to like to get into those. 49ers are obviously very capable of doing that. So I'm hoping for a good, somewhat high-scoring game on a Thursday night. Should be intriguing for that division.
Yeah, I mean, both teams are fighting for a lot in that game. So, I think the loser of the game, it's going to start spiraling out of control because the Seahawks, if they lose the game, that'll be 3 in a row. And it's just tough to come back from 3 losses in a row, especially if you consider yourself a division leader. They won the first 3 games of the season to then go, and lose 3 more in a row. It's going to feel like all that success you had at the beginning of the year, you just threw it away. And I don't know that team's good enough to do that. So a lot of pressure on them. And Seattle, or not Seattle, San Francisco, they fall to 2 and 4.
2 and 4.
I just don't know how they're going to climb out of that. We already talked about the NFC North being a tough division and all these teams with winning records. You might have to win your division in the NFC West if you're going to make the playoffs. I don't know that they're going to get 2 teams in. And if you're 2 and 4, and the Cardinals are the only team in that division who's 2 and 0. So I think it's a lot of pressure on the Niners to win this football game. Or as you mentioned, we might be getting a little warm underneath the seat of Kyle Shanahan. So
they got the Chiefs next after that. Cowboys, which again, depending what they do this week, they could be trending in the right direction. If they get another win this week, the Cowboys could be looking good. Bucks after that. They got the Bills at the Bills later. Lions. I mean, they don't have an easy schedule. Yeah,
Bears defense is really solid and that offense is getting better. I think the 49ers kind of need to win this football game if they want to legitimately have a chance at the playoffs.
Yeah.
And also, if they lose this game, Seattle goes to 4-2. So now you're 2 games behind a team that you have now lost in the head-to-head matchup. And I think that that's going to be a lot to overcome. So I expect that to be about the best game that San Francisco has played year to date. So I think it's worth watching Thursday night on Amazon. Back to college, though. Saturday night, Ohio State at Oregon. If you are new to college football news, or if you've been living under a rock for the last year, Oregon is now in the Big Ten, and this is going to be their first real Big Ten showdown. They played Michigan State last week. That was not that close of a football game. I watched a decent chunk of it, and Oregon, is just a much better football team.
Has Ohio State ever been to Oregon and played?
I don't know. I would guess not, would be my guess.
This feels weird, like just even saying that or picturing them there. I'm like,
Yeah, I'm not sure if they would have ever been to Oregon, which Oregon plays at Autzen Stadium in Eugene. And Oregon's also, a lot of people know that they're funded by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. That's why they kind of led the trend of all the crazy jerseys. But Oregon's a tough football team, man. And I think it's going to be a really good game and a really good litmus test as to, who is the top dog in the Big Ten. And if Oregon comes in and immediately whoops Ohio State and runs away with the Big Ten this year, that's not a good look for the Big Ten to have a newcomer be the best team. You see, you're kind of facing the same problem with Texas, but I think it's a little different because everybody knows how good the SEC is. And I think people are starting to maybe wonder, does the Big Ten have enough to compete all the time? I know they had Michigan, but that era looks like that's over. Definitely a game worth watching. Saturday night, 6:30, NBC.
Yeah, that should be a good one. Yeah, if you're not out hitting the clubs, check that one out for sure. Back to
the club at 6:30.
Well, depends where you're at in the U.S. Maybe you're overseas. Maybe you're in Europe.
These are central times for everyone.
Maybe you're in Ibiza. Yeah. I don't know the time difference there, but popping pills in Ibiza, yeah, you never know. Never know what time difference it is. But back to the NFL briefly, just because we're always repping the Chicago a little bit here. Bears standalone game again Sunday morning. They're playing Jacksonville and London. Great opportunity for them to keep things rolling after this past week. Caleb looking a lot better. That one will be interesting. Again, early Sunday, roll out of bed, you just flip that on, start cooking breakfast, and watch a nice game there. I think that one definitely got to check out. But the real one, I think, more of a highlight type of game. Definitely going to be really intriguing for kind of the top standings, see where people really stand. Washington at Baltimore. We have Baltimore, like I said, number 2, to reiterate it, in our top 8 there. Get the win against Cincy. I get Cincy's 1-4, but again, we all think they're pretty good. That was a decent win at a minimum. And then Washington, are they the real deal? This will be a really good test. I think Baltimore has gotten into enough of a rhythm with the changes that they did have on defense, coordinators, bringing Derrick Henry, and they've had enough time to implement that, and they've started to look pretty good. This will be a good test for Washington. If they put up a really good fight and lose, I think I'll have just as much respect for them as, if Baltimore just came out flat as can be and they won. I think playing a really good game against a tough team will be encouraging. If they come out and just look overmatched, might make us rethink some things about the Commanders. They're just at that spot where they're a little, unproven. Rookie quarterback, is this what we actually think it is, or is it just kind of a flash in a pan type of thing? So I think this will be a good game. neither defense is playing incredibly well. So again, this could be a 35-40 point, 35-40 type of finish, something like that. So that could be fun. Two electric quarterbacks talking about running and, tossing the ball a little bit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one noon on Sunday.
Yeah, I am very excited about that game. The only thing I wish is that they'd flex that to the Sunday night game so I don't have to watch the 1-4 Bengals play the 2-3 Giants. I mean, come on, NFL. Like we used to flex football games, and I think they stopped doing that in the last couple of years. And I don't really understand the point. I just, put the best game on at prime time. That game is not going to get as much viewership. I don't think people are going to be interested
remember if
in
it was
Cincinnati
this
Giants.
game or a different game, but I read something somewhere that they were trying to flex it, but CBS or somebody shut it down. So,
And there's probably some network,
yeah. I mean, to your point, I don't think they don't do it anymore, like officially, but obviously you have to like get the right approval. And I can't remember if it was this game or a different one, but I read something about that. So clearly the conversations are happening, but someone has to have a little more pull. So, you got Goodell on speed dial.
But I like that they're at least trying, because that's clearly going to be likely the best game of the weekend, I think, from just like a pure, like, you got two teams that appear to be pretty similarly matched and also similar style too. You've got that running quarterback, but also, Jaden can throw the ball, Lamar can throw the ball, high-powered offenses. What you mentioned, struggling defenses. I think this has got the makings of like a high 30s, low 40s type game, where it's just touchdown after touchdown, back and forth all game long. And that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I completely agree. It'd be awesome to do. I think they need to do that a little bit more. I mean, when you got standalone games, you're basically, for a lot of fans, you're just throwing in the towel. Like, I'll be like, all right, let's just throw on a Netflix show with my girl instead of sitting there watching this trash game. Only thing I can think of is they're really high on the Bengals at 1-4, and just as I told you about the Giants, that they're a lot better than you thought they were, sitting at 2-3. Maybe that's what people think, but I mean, that could lead us into our next topic of conversation, which they are locks, but sometimes things happen. They're still locks. Locks of the week this past week. We're back to 2-2 even, which honestly is not all that bad in gambling. We like to be a little bit above 500, obviously. So you're seeing some profits coming through, which we're about to get there. But walk us through your lock and I guess future lock if you want to jump into it too. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so we're both 2-2 now. Last week we were a combined 3-3. This week we went 1-1, combined. So we're now 4-4 combined. I had Seattle at -6.5, and honestly, about 10 minutes into the game, I thought, sure thing. Seahawks recover a 101-yard fumble for a touchdown, and they also then managed to lose the game by getting a field goal blocked and returned for a touchdown. Meanwhile, the Giants are traveling across the country to play this game, and it's just one of those games that you look back on in your season, and they're going to be shaking their heads at this one, especially if they end up losing this next game against the 49ers, and that ends up being the game that keeps them out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was on the right side of that bet, and I feel like the Seahawks just kind of crumbled down the stretch, and I don't know what the deal is, but their defense doesn't look that good, and the offense, while it looked fantastic against the Lions, really looked pretty bad overall in this game against the Giants. And only thing I'll say is, if you look at the Giants' games this year so far, I think their defense is decent. I think that's a decent defensive football team, but it's still, to me, not excusable. Not when they spot you with 7 points right out of the gate at home with such a ridiculous play. Like, that should be a gut punch for the Giants, and instead they rallied and the Seahawks just crumbled. So
I think it was one of those weird games where when you have so many guys out and you're such the underdog that all of a sudden, like, whether the team loses focus, again, no one's like coming in thinking, no, we don't have to play hard, but things just happen subconsciously. I had said to
No
you,
neighbors.
I do think that the Giants are a little bit better than their record had indicated. And the Seahawks, maybe, I was just kind of putting them in numbers wise. And I was like, they might be like the 12th best team in the 17th, which isn't that far off. But I did say if Malik was out, I did like that pick. And not only was Malik Neighbors out, but then Singletary was out. And I think there was another guy out as well. And so then I texted you. I was like, all right, now your pick's looking really good, because that was, to me, the determining factor. And those guys were out, and they still came and did that. So, I mean, like you said, that's a terrible loss by the Seahawks. I do think, like you said, the Giants are a little bit better than we thought. I don't think they're, going to be running the playoffs and making any noise, but I don't think they're the Browns. We've kind of thrown at the Panthers. You have some really bad teams that you think, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, maybe they're not like that terrible. Like they're not the absolute bottom of the pit. So yeah, good win for the Giants. It could at least keep them relevant, throughout the year potentially. We'll see what they do. I mean, they could also just epically collapse. So we'll see. But I definitely got the pick, and yeah, that's not a good one. They're going to have a good bounce back game, which makes that game a little more intriguing against the 49ers, because there's going to be some pretty sizable implications with that.
Yeah, but this week I've got to get back in the winning column here and get back to above 500 like I was.
Do it.
I've got Houston -7 against New England. The Patriots are going to be starting Drake May.
Are they?
Houston's
Officially?
got a
Did that
good
happen?
defense. Yeah, announced earlier today that the Patriots are going to go ahead and start Drake May in this game against the Texans.
I must have been working my real job, and you must have been just sitting at home.
Got to stay locked in for locks of the week. So I like Houston going up against a rookie quarterback with no offensive weapons. I think Houston is one of those teams. I think they're better than they have looked. I think they're as good as their record, but better than they've looked. I think they know that. I think CJ Stroud's the kind of quarterback that he wants to have a good game to kind of show everybody like, no, we're a legit Super Bowl contender. And I think this has got a recipe for that happening. I think Houston is feeling pretty good, but wants to obviously fine-tune things on offense. Defense is really solid. And I just don't see how New England's going to score any points. So I just think 7 points is not going to be that hard to overcome. I know it's laying a full touchdown, which is, that always kind of bums you out. I looked at a couple others that were a little closer spreads, but this is the one I feel the most confident in for my lock of the week. So it's Houston -7.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I think my first couple thoughts on it, like I said, one, obviously I didn't know Drake May was starting, so that's interesting. You hope it's not one of those weird situations where I think we all agree Drake May did look pretty good early on, very tiny sample size. But even when you just see like a Flacco, like someone drop in, all of a sudden it's just like the team is rejuvenated somehow, some weird thing. So you hope you don't see that, which I doubt you would, but you hope you don't see that. And then I think for Houston's side of things, I think if they can cover this, because like you said, if they win by 7, you're pushing. I guess we'd have to throw some ties in there. I don't know. That might happen, but they're going to have to win by at least 8. That probably means 10, right? Probably means a touchdown and a field goal. Obviously, something could happen. It could be 8. But I think that would be a really good sign for Houston, to exactly your point of what CJ's probably thinking about. If they're able to do that, that means they might be like a way past where we'd even think they'd be at. When you expect those teams coming back this year, you're expecting them to be a really good team immediately. Good record, looks good, almost like the Commanders, kind of have that feel. You're just like, wow, this team looks great. If they can actually look kind of bad, but win the games and then actually figure out a way to turn things up. It has that Kansas City Chiefs feel to it. If they can do that,
say the same thing.
That early on in his career, would be really encouraging. So, if they could win by 14 plus, that would make me really feel good about that side of things. Obviously, it covers the bet. I would think that would tell me a couple things about, that game, just seeing those things. So I think it's definitely in play. I didn't know Drake May was even starting, which is interesting. But yeah, I think they can do that. I like CJ Stroud a lot. So that would not shock me if he has that in him, that poise to like get the team back, figure things out, get stuff on track, and really do it. So yeah, I'm on board with it. I dabble.
All right, well, tell us, you were in the winning column for Lock of the Week this last week. So tell us about that and what you've got cooking up for everybody this week.
Yeah. I think, even in our losses, we talk about that one. It's like, it's hard to say. When you lose, I get it, but you think you're on the right side of a bet, or, kind of the right logic at least to go along with it. And I think we did perfectly the discussion we had on this. Like, I thought the Ravens would do it. They were getting on a roll. They're going to win that. I don't think that the Bengals have it in them to make this run and this comeback. And the Bengals did win and cover it. But you're exactly like, I wouldn't want to bet against the team that is like literally desperate, and probably wouldn't have wanted to bet on this one because you'd have been sweating your ass off the entire game because it didn't look good in a lot of moments. So I think we kind of covered that perfectly. The Ravens got it. The interesting things to me, like a great game, like you said, that division, partly why we think they're so interesting is they just battle. They just play whatever the game is, high scoring, low scoring, like they just battle and they figure it out. Bengals offense looks great. Ravens are going to have to pick up the defense a bit. I mean, the Bengals, again, have a really good offense, which is fine. But the Ravens definitely need to pick up that defense a little bit if they are going to be this top team in the division. If they're going to, make a Super Bowl run, they're going to have to pick that up a little bit. But it was a good win at the end of the day. Lamar makes that fumble at the end. Like, Ravens should have locked it up. Lamar gives it away, which, again, that's always the concerning thing for him, is in those big moments, he gives it away. Then the Bengals have it in the bag, and everyone's talking about McPherson, who I have on my fantasy team, and missing in the field goal. Is like the holder missed the hold and screwed it up. Like, I get he got it up by the time he went to kick it, but that's not how that's supposed to work. I wouldn't even put that on the kicker, maybe 5% at most. I'm shocked everyone's saying like McPherson missed it. I'd be like, whatever holder's name is, didn't hold really well. That would be my headline. Maybe something catchier, but but anyway,
squirting out of his hands as he was trying to put it down. Like, it was. I can't even believe he got a kickoff, to be honest.
I mean, I was impressed that the guy got it up in that pressure situation. I feel like he got it up, but also, I'm shocked he got like some pretty good foot on it. I mean, it was like a reasonable kick. It just, that stuff has a big impact. So anyway, whatever it is, but they miss it. Ravens are able to come back and get it. So I mean, what a great game. Way to finish it. Definitely was sweating, that bet, but pulled it out, as I was hoping. So that's awesome. Good win for them, and they're trending in the right direction. We'll see if the Bengals can make a comeback. But lock of the week this week. So again, get positive. We can go 6-4. Then we're starting to get somewhere. Now we're looking good. I got Cardinals +5 versus the Packers. So they're at home, I believe. I believe the Packers are at Arizona. Is that right? You got it looked up there. I think they're
that up for us.
It
is Packers at home.
Packers are at home. Cardinals are at Packers. So Cardinals are at Packers, which is what I assume that number is probably where it's at because they're at Lambeau. I don't know. To me, that just doesn't move the needle a whole lot being away from home. So I'm just looking at it as 5 points in general. I could see it being a 3-point game. Wouldn't shock me if Arizona goes down and loses by a field goal. But I just think the Cardinals are kind of trending in the right direction. I think the Packers are just kind of in between right now. I'm not really sure where they're trending. I don't know if they've won the last 1 or 2 games, but kind of odd that Jordan, Love was 0-2 and Malik Willis was 2-0, like that was kind of a weird thing. And then Jordan Love finally gets a win, like as a starter.
Controversy in Green Bay.
I'm not saying that, but yeah, probably. No, but it's just kind of been a weird little flow at that. I mean, again, there's quite a few people thinking definitely winning the division over the Lions, even forget about the Vikings being what they are, or even not being high in Caleb. A lot of people had the Packers winning the division. I've heard a few Super Bowl picks from them, and I just don't think they look anything like that. I mean, they are not. I mean, to me, they're sitting in third, tied in third/4th with the Bears. They're not looking like they're going to win the division. I don't really see a Super Bowl path in any way, shape, or form. So to me, it just feels like, okay, this has been all the momentum has been downward. Where again, Arizona, I don't think anyone expected a whole lot, and they just seem to be kind of trending in the right direction. So to me, I see it being a close game. And again, yeah, I mean, maybe it's close and Packers kick a field goal and win it, but I think getting 5 points, I mainly am just not buying any extra points for being in Lambeau. I just don't think that's going to really have any impact. I think Kyler is kind of just a little baller. Like I said, I mean, that he's pretty good. I just don't think some of that other stuff impacts him. I don't think Marvin Harrison, I think those guys will be absolutely ready to play there, have some fun. I could see them winning outright possibly. Not going to throw that on there for sure, but I think covering 5 should be very doable for him.
Yeah, I like that because I think that it's an opportunity for the Cardinals to present themselves as a legitimate playoff hopeful team. And if you lose this game, then you fall back down again, and it starts to feel like same old Cardinals, flashy at times. So I think they have an opportunity to go into Lambeau. It shouldn't be crazy cold weather, so I don't think they're going to have to deal with that.
No.
So that's awesome for them. I like that game. I think laying 5 points is, that's tough. So if the Cardinals can just squeak out a narrow loss, even backdoor cover, I think this game's got like potential for backdoor cover written all over it. Kyler throws a touchdown with 1 minute and 12 seconds to go in the fourth to only lose by 4 instead of losing by 11.
Yeah.
That's kind of the feel of this game if it doesn't go well for the Cardinals. I think there's a chance Cardinals actually do win that game, but I think that means that the Cardinals are a legitimate team. And I kind of feel that they're trending that direction. I feel that with you. So I like the pick. So let's get to 6-4.
Lock
60% win rate. That's making money.
I say we then start putting an account together and we'll pull it up on here and show our DraftKings account. We'll only bet locks of the week and see what our money trends. Maybe that'll be a week 8 episode. We'll shoot for that, something like that. A little live betting account.
Let's do it. All right. Well, with that, this is a wrap on part 2 of episode number 5 here. Thank you for listening. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also shoot us comments, questions. We'll do our best to answer them on the next pod. But we'll see you next week. And looking forward to going over what happens this coming weekend.
Thanks for listening.